Muchas gracias. Si desean conocer más sobre los hitos de los que nos habló el profesor Hernando Vargas, los invitamos a escanear el QR que pueden encontrar en su escarapela. Ahora tenemos la conferencia La Universidad del Futuro, que está a cargo de Phoon, presidente de la Singapore University of Technology and Design. El profesor Phoon es un líder mundial en la aplicación de métodos estadísticos y análisis de datos a la ingeniería geotécnica. Es el presidente de la Sociedad Internacional de Mecánica de Suelos e Ingeniería Geotécnica, ISS-MGE, y ha recibido premios internacionales como 2 medallas Norman, el Alfredo Ang Award y el Humboldt Research Award. Su visión lo convierte en una de las voces más influyentes sobre el análisis de riesgo y confiabilidad estructural en el mundo. Una bienvenida para él.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you very much, Professor Juan Paulo, Mauricio, Sylvia, and many of my friends in the department. I'm really privileged and honored that I get the invitation to come here and share with you a little bit about what my university is doing. Before I start, maybe I should congratulate the department. Happy 75th birthday for the civil engineers and happy 25th birthday for the environmental engineers. I feel that I'm happier than you guys, you know why? The reason is because Singapore is celebrating our 60th birthday this year. So you guys are 15-year-old, you're 15 years older than Singapore. The second reason, of course, is that before I joined this new university that I'll be explaining shortly, I was with the National University of Singapore. And this year, coincidentally, we are celebrating our 70th birthday. So the department is 10 years older than the country, but your department is 5 years older than the department. Finally, why I'm so happy, because I have the privilege to work in this new university. And my university is only 16 years old, 1/6. So it's the newest university in Singapore. In fact, that gives me a chance to explain a little bit about what the university is about, because it is an entirely new university set up on totally new principles. I could just explain a little bit what is the purpose of this university. The first thing is that this university, one of the very big functions is actually not to nurture engineers for current problems. We're actually set up to nurture students for future problems, complex future problems. One example would be climate change, for example, digital technologies. These are all future problems. Some of you may be very curious, why would there be a university that deals with future problems? This is actually related to Singapore, which is a very, very, I would say it's a very strange country. Singapore plans in advance of decades. It is a country that can do that because we have a governing political party that has been in power for the entire history of the country. Just to give an example, we are now building a new airport. The current airport is called Changi Airport. It is a very big airport. Some of you have heard about it. We are building the second airport that is the same size as the current airport, so it will be increased by 100%. It is built on a piece of land that was reclaimed from the sea 45 years ago. So 45 years, we are planning for the airport that's being built now. So that's an example of how Singapore works. In fact, Singapore is an engineered society. It's based on engineering principle. It's not built randomly. We built this university because this university needs to deal with very, very complex emerging problems. I hope to share with you only one part of it because I'll be making a presentation to the Academic Council, and I do not want to have the same presentation. I will focus a lot on the topic that you are very interested in, which are the built environment. This was already well known. One of the major reasons for our work in the built environment was to imagine how the built environment would need to adapt when climate change were to appear. Remember, we planned that 16 years ago, I don't think there was a lot of concern about climate change at that point in time. But we already built two particular departments, and that will be my presentation today. One is the Department of Architecture and Sustainable Design, but this is not your architecture department, because it is a computational architecture department, and the students are able to do civil engineering analysis, environmental engineering analysis. We also have a Lee Kuan Yew Center for Innovative Cities. I'll explain that. So today I'll just be explaining two parts of the university that may be of interest to all of you. Just to share that Mr. Lee Kuan Yew was the first Prime Minister of Singapore. I had a discussion over lunch with Nicholas, and I shared with him that one reason Singapore was successful was because of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. He's an extraordinary visionary leader, and I can have a good discussion how forward-thinking was his policy. I will be, given my limited time, I'll just run through very briefly what the department is doing, and I'll do this in 4 parts, but if I run out of time, you all could just let me know. I'll just stop my presentation. The name of the department is called Architecture and Sustainable Design, but before I talk about it, maybe I should talk about how the university was set up, and Architecture and Sustainable Design, we call it ASD, is just one. What we call a pillar. We don't call it a department. The university was set up as an entirely interdisciplinary department. So my university does not have civil engineering, mechanical, electrical, so it doesn't have all this departmental kind of structure. It is totally so-called interdisciplinary, because the purpose of the university was to solve real-world problems. And all real-world problems, as I will explain shortly, none of them belongs to civil engineering alone. I thought maybe I should explain slowly so that you understand how unique is this university before I talk about the Department of Architecture. This university was set up in collaboration with MIT. It is the only university in the world that MIT collaborates in at this point in time. So it's extraordinary. How does the university work? I can just explain in a very short way. What it does is that our students spend 1.5 years on what we call a common curriculum. This common curriculum basically illustrates what SUTD does. Firstly, everything is technology. I'm sure all of you agree. I don't think you can solve anything without technology, right? So that is something that all my students are very strong in. In fact, the science, maths, and technology part of the curriculum came from MIT. So this is a very rigorous program. Secondly, every single problem we solve are basically human-centered. You do not apply technology for the sake of technology, because it is cool, because it is fast, because it is powerful. The university is built in such a way that the students are trained to solve problems that the society or the people are interested in. That is always the start. And then technology is used to solve this people-centered problem. So it's very unusual that the university has humanities and social sciences, because we are essentially a technological university. But this is very important. I will share why this combination of engineering, technology, and social sciences are so important. Thirdly, because we are solving future problems, we are basically a school of innovation. So the only purpose is that our students become innovators. Innovators doesn't mean that you do a startup company. Innovator simply means that you're there to transform a company, you're there to start a company. So it's training students with an entrepreneurial mindset to do new things. And this is done in a very systematic way using design thinking. I'm not sure. Maybe I can have a show of hands. How many of you have heard about design thinking? Great. I don't have to explain, because one of the strange things is that when I talk about design in SUTD, people start to ask me whether I can design fashion. Do I design furniture? I said that's not our design. That is a different kind of design. But the reason is because some of you would know, the word design actually originates from the arts. Yeah, if you look at what is happening, particularly in Italy and then subsequently in Germany, the Bauhaus movement, actually they are the people who started design are the people who are artistic, not engineers, not technology. We are the first to apply design thinking to technology, in my opinion. And this is a very interesting piece for SUTD. The university at the very beginning already applies artificial intelligence 16 years ago. So we are lucky. The university, entire university is AI. But what is very strange to me now, I mentioned that we are here to solve future problems, but the future problems has become the present now. Because the AI that we did 16 years ago is not the AI that we are facing now. So even SUTD is behind. We are no longer future because the future gone faster than what the university could do. So I've been telling people, no, the AI that you did 10 years ago is not the same as the AI now. So that's to share with you the state that we are in. The specialization that we had, this will be students doing the 5 particular pillar. This will be their specialization. Actually, the way you understand the specialization is very easy because the modern economy is divided into built environment. Civil engineers are very important. Engineering product. Engineering systems. Systems are important. Information. The last one tells you the meaning of the university being very forward. We started design and AI in 2019. There was no such program in the world, I think, and we did it despite the fact that there was no employment market for such students. When the students graduate, that was after ChatGPT, the students becomes the hottest students in the employment market. That tells you how far we plan ahead. This is the design and AI program. It's a bachelor program that we are now, this year, or rather next year, we will be launching a graduate program in design and AI. So that's to explain to you all why we have such a program. At the end of the 4th year, they'll be doing a capstone project, which is a rather extraordinary project where the students come together to solve a problem from the industry. So this is not a problem from the professor, it's from the industry. And the industry needs to pay money, because if not, they are not serious. So the industry will pay for the project like the way they pay for consulting. The project cannot be solved by any student in any one of these pillars. We don't allow that kind of problem. Those are too simple. So the project has to be solved by a combination of at least 2 pillars. So if you are a student from ASD, you may have to work with a student in engineering product. You may have to work with a student from engineering system. So this is an interdisciplinary capstone. And for those of you who want to visit Singapore, I would like to invite you to see the capstone exhibition. It's astonishing. I take a moment here to explain to you why I'm in Bogota as well, because when Mauricio says that there's a 75th celebration in Unandis, I was very happy. But one of the reasons, besides being happy, was that I'm trying to escape from Singapore. Those of you who do not know, Bogota is the furthest you can get to Singapore. Furthest. Because if you go through the center of the earth, you hit Singapore. I can't escape further than Bogota. So this is my refuge. Why is it my refuge? Why am I telling you this story? And Professor Juan Paulo may agree with me and Sylvia. I'm spending sleepless night the whole year thinking about how to convert my university to an AI university. This is very complicated. It's not asking students to do ChatGPT. Simply put, this is what we are doing now. I'm trying to put design AI into all of this pillar now. Number one, it's no longer restricted to 1 degree program. So by next year, all my students would have design AI capability. That is something that no university can do, but I'm hoping to achieve 100% coverage by next year, and that needs a lot of work because change is very difficult in any university. So this is what I'm doing now since January. I don't need to show you the detailed program. This is an example of a curriculum, but I wanted to share with you because the curriculum is very special. You notice that you have students doing a design, You notice that the students are doing building information modeling. This is actually civil engineering, but they're also doing architecture engineering system. That's actually under mechanical engineering. They're also doing digital design and fabrication. This is actually under mechanical engineering. So you notice that these are not the conventional architecture program. At the same time, our students are also learning humanities and social sciences. So this is clearly very fundamental. Our students are taught both architecture, engineering, and humanities and social sciences. By the way, my students can write poems if you want them to. So they're extraordinary. In fact, I'm the least talented professor in my SUTD. They are all very talented. These are just some of the examples that I would like to share with you that they do building energy systems. This is engineering for sure, but this is by architecture students. They do architecture, science, and technology, and also they do structures. So this is civil engineering. I mentioned that one reason the university was set up was to solve future problems that the country of Singapore, I would not say is important, I would say it's existential. That means Singapore would disappear if we don't find a solution. I don't have time to talk about everything, but I would like to today talk about the rising sea level. In fact, this is the greatest difference between Singapore and Bogota. When I come here, I feel very safe. Because the driver that brought me from the airport says that this place is 2,600 meters. So you don't have this problem. I need to fly to Bogota if I cannot stay in Singapore. The average elevation of Singapore is 15 meters, 1.5. But the majority of the country is 5 meters above sea level. Majority, 5 meters. The climate change projection for Singapore is that within 75 years, by the way, this is very short, and coincidentally, that's your birthday as well. Within 75 years, the sea level will rise by roughly between 0.5 to 1.9 meters in Singapore. So the average will be a sea level rise of 1.2 meters. The elevation is only 5 meters. By the way, this is sea level. It doesn't include your tide. It doesn't include storm surges, which means that if you add in the tide and the storm surges, a big part of Singapore will be under the sea in the near future. This is existential. A second problem that you all may be very curious is about health. What has health got to do with civil engineering? Well, let me first explain why health is a problem for Singapore. Singapore will become a super age society next year. Not 100 years, not 50 years. What is the meaning of a super age society? It means that 1 in 5 citizens will be above the age of 65 by next year. 1 in 5, 20%. By the year 2030, which is around the corner, you'll be 1 in 4. So 25% of the population will be older than 65. What has that got to do with buildings? Everything. Because if you're older, There are many things you cannot do anymore. You need to have facilities, you need to have buildings that are friendly to the elderly people, number one. Number two, it is impossible for any country to build hospital for a super-aged society. That means the citizen has to have health in their home. That's number two. This is called aging in place, not in the hospital. Number three, and this is a very, very serious problem in Singapore, social isolation. Elderly people, because they are not mobile, they are no longer able to get out of their house and interact with people. Now that is very bad for your health, just to share with all of you. And I love sharing it with all the male professors, because just to inform all of you, in Singapore, the males are the most affected by social isolation because the female like to talk together. I don't know, is this true in Colombia? So this is a gentle reminder to all the men. And I think you all will appreciate my advice. Try to get together, drink beer together. It actually helps you to keep your brain sharp and you do not become senile. By the way, these are scientific facts. In Singapore, males are not so good when it comes to older. You need to develop your built environment to foster social interaction. So this is an entirely new game now. It's not about providing a roof over your head anymore. This is to tell you why interdisciplinarity is important, and you cannot solve problems just by thinking in a very conventional way. I have no time to talk about the rest, but I have many. If there are more time, I can share more with you all. I wanted to share some subjects that the students are studying. Just to let you all know, for example, this is the core studio. Simply because we call them studio, because the students study by doing projects together. So we don't study in a lecture room. Students gather together and they do innovation, they do projects. This has coincidentally become very important because my students are able to do design using AI. Everybody knows that. AI is very good in generating design. But I've shared over dinner with Sylvia just yesterday. I do not think that's the right approach. Everybody is doing it. You need to force the student to do physical prototype. Because maybe the AI is giving you rubbish. Only way you can tell that it's not rubbish is to do real things. Hands-on. Of course, we are very privileged, just to tell Professor Juan Paulo, my university has the largest fabrication lab in Singapore. And the fabrication lab is open 24 hours, 7 days. And the lab is open for students to use, even if there are no classes, to encourage them to use. So the students use my lab to produce a gift for their girlfriends, boyfriends, on Valentine's Day. The boys produce gift for their mother on Mother's Day. You know, if you have someone that you love, you create for them, right? I'm only interested in the student creating because I'm an educator. They provide the reason for creation. So we are creators and we build physical prototype. Why do I spend so much time talking about it? There will be no hallucination in SUTD. Because the product that you deliver is not an essay, it is not a report, it is a physical product. I mean, this is a small example, but we do big physical product. So that is how we are approaching AI at this point in time. In another studio, the students are actually asked to think about how to build in unusual environment. In this case, an example I gave you is underground space. By the way, this is the last frontier in Singapore because Singapore has finished land reclamation. We cannot reclaim anymore without invading another country. We have built very tall buildings. The only frontier left is underground, and we are exploiting underground space now. And of course, there are many interesting issues if you think about underground space. Another problem that is done in this Core Studio 3 is how you can build dense and green housing. This is very important for Singapore because of space limitation. I will give some examples later. We also have optional studio. If you do not mind, I play a video rather than to explain further. I think the audio is not working, I think. Somehow, can someone turn on the audio? Thank you. I wanted to share this video to give you a sense about how things operate in SUTD rather than talking about the topic itself. Basically, architecture design now is not about building, it's about spatial intelligence. How do you use space efficiently? And of course, this topic is about low altitude economy, how you can fly drones in an autonomous way. But I wanted to talk more about the fact that this project is not done by architecture students. It's impossible. You don't teach drones this is engineering product. So all the projects are done, as I said, with students from different pillars, not by their own. Secondly, you notice that these students do this project only in year 2. Amazing. They can do photogrammetry, they can build a digital model, and that's because they can work with students in the information system and technology design pillar. The last thing you all may look at this particular project, actually those of you who likes to watch a science fiction movie, this is almost like the drone flying to a spacecraft, right? It's your Star Wars. The students are just playing with it. You notice that everything done in SUTD is physical. Although we do AI and digital work very well, but finally they are tested by students playing together. This is an immense asset to SUTD because the students are able to work together, they learn teamwork, they actually enjoy learning. They enjoy learning engineering. That's the only way. And the last thing that the ladies will be very interested is only through this pedagogy I can get a lot of female students. They will not join any engineering school if it's traditional engineering. The number of female students I have in SUTD is 40%. 40. Because being the president, my target is to achieve 50. I'm trying very hard now to get a one-to-one correspondent in my university, but it's already way beyond, let's say, NUS, my past university. The number of male student or female student in civil engineering is maybe less than 20%. The pedagogy means a lot to me, just to explain to you guys. This is actually the 4th year where you notice that the human-centered part is important. The students actually take their projects to the community. So they have to work with people who are not students. They have to work with adults, work with the residents, and they have to work with maybe even the ministers or the politician. I mentioned net zero, I mentioned rising sea level is a big problem. I wanted to show with you Namila's project. She has graduated. Just to share with you the ability of my students to do things that are quite incredible. They are thinking now about how they can solve living issues if Singapore will be flooded. Do you give up the country or you still could solve it technologically? She won a very important award by this Jacques Rougerie Foundation.
My thesis actually examines the conditions of communities that are vulnerable to climate change. My design is actually a speculative fiction that explores how humans can be living in this new aquatic territory. The topic of this thesis happens to align with the Jacques Rougerie competition vision, how it encourages architects, students, and designers to imagine new typologies, new building typologies, or new communities that could be designed within this aquatic territory, especially as defined by the sea level rise. When I went to the ceremony, and I met a lot of people who were involved in the jury or in the organization of the award. I met people from UNESCO, met astronaut, and even famous architects. And it was very encouraging to see they acknowledge the work that I've done in school, even though I'm only a student. So it was actually exciting to see that even the industry or even international organizations like UNESCO are looking at visionary projects and actually being inspired by it.
I wanted to share with you this particular video. Firstly, it's quite obvious that engineers are not necessarily inarticulate. My students are very articulate because they work in teams and they talk all the time. Sometimes they talk too much, but they can talk. Number two, you notice that these students are winning prizes all the time. So it's not projects that are done in SUTD. We send them overseas to do competitions so that they get a sense of authentication. But more importantly, and that's something I'm very proud of, my students do architecture engineering simply because they are following a purpose in their heart. They are not studying architecture engineering to make things work. So Namila is doing this project because the project was meaningful to her, how to save vulnerable communities. Now, all my students are basically very, very purposeful. In fact, sometimes I have to ask them, like, are you sure you can get a job? And, are you sure you can win you can get a rice bowl, earn a living? And they are a lot more aspirational. They are a lot more, I would say they are a lot more idealistic than me because I grew from a different era. But I'm very proud of them because it's very rare that your students are studying for a personal reason. And that's something that's highly encouraged in SUTD. I won't have time to talk more, but these are examples of, oh, by the way, this is very interesting. This student developed a dense and green kind of like architectural layout. The fundamental part of our work is that you can actually build, if you're clever, you can build buildings together so that you can live within a 15 minutes walk. That means you can have your groceries, you can have your clinics, you can have everything within 15 minutes. Can you actually design such a layout so that you do not have to walk between 15 minutes? Then you don't have to drive. So that's the idea here, sustainability. I will skip because of lack of time. Apologies. Our architecture and sustainability design actually ran the Venice Biennale for Singapore this year. I wanted to share this with you simply because it tells you the very playfulness of, there's a feature in SUTD that is very playful. And what my professors did and students did was that they produced iconic buildings in Singapore. For example, this is the Art Science Museum in Singapore, and they actually use 3D printing. This is a traditional food, a cake in Singapore. So they make the building out of a cake using 3D printing. Because the theme of this Venice Biennale exhibition is about how you can combine culture, technology, and people together. from many, many different countries. So the theme is about super diversity. It shows the hands-on learning culture in SUTD. We can make almost anything in SUTD because of the hands-on culture. Maybe I skip the video for lack of time. If I could, I would just share another two more and I will stop. I would like to share with you this Center for Innovative Cities because this is about research in the built environment. You all may not have seen a picture of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. I would easily credit Singapore's success to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. He's a visionary for many different reasons. But he was kind enough to lend his name when he was the Prime Minister of Singapore. So in Singapore, there's only like 2 institutions named after Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. He's a person who doesn't want his name to appear anywhere. So there's no statue of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, there's no picture, there's no anything about him. He doesn't want himself to appear in any history books. That's the nature of the man. We are lucky that he allowed us to name under the Center for Innovative Cities. Now, this research institute is basically an engineering and architectural think tank. So it's about informing policy. I wanted to share with you the kind of people that we hire. For example, the first founding chair of the institute is Professor Chan. She is actually a political scientist. And she was actually an ambassador, Singapore ambassador to USA. So she's actually a diplomat. My current director is Professor Cheong. She is actually the chairperson of our Singapore Housing Development Board. That's the biggest agency in Singapore that caters to housing for 80% of the population. And she's now working with us because she found this particular institute to be very meaningful. As I've said, I may not have enough time to talk about the entire slate of work that they're doing, but I thought I'd give you a flavor again, just to give you a sense what we do. They actually launched a Futures of Cities program. I want you to look at the date. That was in 2014. That was 11 years ago. And at that point in time, we were examining what is the impact of technology, what is the impact of health, and what is the impact of sustainability, even before it was very popular. Future of work, education, and healthcare. These questions were actually being researched 11 years ago. I wanted to share this story with you simply because what we are doing now built into this piece of work that we were willing to invest in, although at that point in time, people are thinking that, hey, these are like not so important because anything that you do is future. Generally, people do not think it's important because you are thinking about the problem right now. But I wanted to share with you that, unfortunately, it is very important now to think about it 14 years ago. I talk about aging urbanism. It has become important. It wasn't that important 14 years ago. How you can age in place. In fact, what they looked at was they actually proposed that it's not a good idea for senior people to build housing. Many countries are doing that, build housing for senior people. They felt that that's a bad idea. They actually thought that the senior people will have a better quality of lifestyle if you mix them with the younger people. So mix is important. Having them staying by themselves as a retirement village is a bad idea. That was the research finding. And that's being done in many countries, retirement village. Singapore has also since evolved. We started off by saying that we are a garden city. Then we become a city in a garden. And now we are basically a city in nature because we encourage nature to come back, including the animals. But then how do you manage the relationship between the people and the animals? This is an important thing now in Singapore. This is the latest. So I just give you a very quick overview of what we've been doing over the past 15 years. And this is the future that we are starting now as of this year. Of course, given what we have learned, we are now prepared. I feel we are more prepared to deal with the future. In fact, we are now combining our strength in architecture sustainable design together with the Lee Kuan Yew Center for Innovative Cities. What are we trying to solve now? We are trying to solve the problem of regenerative cities. I mentioned that so these are not academic problems, by the way. One of the very big problems, by the way, this is Singapore, for those who have not seen it. It's just a tiny little island, 700 kilometers square. I don't know what is the size of Bogota, but maybe it's roughly the same size. We are going to face issues on this southern eastern front. So we're going to build a very massive coastal defense wall here. This will be much larger than what Venice is doing. It's called the Long Island Project. So, as I've said, these are national problems that we are solving now. I've talked about aging housing estate. I won't talk about it, but maybe I briefly mention what's the meaning of regenerative cities. When we talk about sustainability, we are talking about how we can live so that we do not consume too much of the planet's resources. But actually, regenerative cities is a new concept, how we can actually recover the planetary resources. So it's no longer a net zero gain, but we are trying to be positive. Is it possible? We do not know, but I mentioned that we are very famous for solving future-facing problems. And all these are almost impossible. I hope I've convinced you. This is impossible to be solved by any professor in one single department. It's impossible. And we have a wonderful culture for those who visit us that we are willing to talk to anybody because we are all united by one purpose to solve a very big problem for Singapore. This is my last part. If I could be given another 5 minutes, I want to talk about the challenges we are facing now in making transformation in our built environment. But before I do that, I just thought I take 1 minute of time to explain what is the vision that I would be taking SUTD to the next level. I'm actually doing it in only 3 parts, kind of like simple 1, 2, 3. The first part, which I'm doing now, I'm going to convert the whole SUTD to a design AI university. I'll be explaining that tomorrow, what it means. I'll be integrating talent development with a research innovation enterprise. This will be a seamless integration from the business world to the university. And lastly, I'll be increasing the number of graduate students in my university. Essentially, I'll want to convert SUTD to be a Caltech of innovation. So that's the 3 parts that I'm doing. Of course, they are all related. I don't really have time to explain, but I'm hoping that you find this strategy to be very exciting. I wanted to come back to what I mentioned about things that feels very futuristic. So the Lee Kuan Yew Center for Innovative Cities, they started a Future of Work 10 years ago, thinking about how AI would disrupt the nature of work 10 years ago. Of course, now it become very serious because of the new generative AI. Fortunately, because of 10 years of research, that's why we are capable of launching the design AI change that I'm making. And this is actually based on research for the past 10 years. It's not a new thing that we are doing. You actually need to do research in order for you to build upon your next stage. You cannot do this randomly. So I want to convince everybody that research is very important if you choose the right area. This is a piece of news that just came out last week before I came. It's telling you that transforming the construction industry is not easy. Singapore has been pushing prefabrication. I'm sure like many countries, but it's not succeeding in Singapore, just to let you know. This shows you that one single technology cannot solve your problem. In fact, a lot of the prefabrication companies are collapsing because of the cost of transporting. It's just transportation problem now. It's not even a civil engineering problem. Transporting the factory in Malaysia to Singapore has been very costly. So the factories are in Malaysia. You need to bring them to the construction site. And everybody thought that all these things can appear by magic. That's not true. Everything has a cost. So it tells you that our built environment challenges are very complex, and therefore we are very confident that you need to apply design thinking into your problem and not to think about it as an engineering or technological problem. I'll skip this because I know my time is very limited. I wanted to share with you all the things that we are doing now to introduce AI into our research. So one example is this AI planning tool that we developed, and this is already used by the government, by the way. So none of the research that we do is used within the university.
As many as 13,000 new buildings will be constructed every day until 2050. We need improved planning intelligence to make this construction add up to low-carbon cities. Net Zero Futures Lab has delivered multiple generative city planning tools to augment planning intelligence. Searching through many solutions, we identify designs that balance environmental sustainability with density, cost, and buildability. We recently created 9,000 master plans for the Greater Southern Waterfront and evaluated them all for urban heat island effect. In our results, we were able to identify the most impactful planning and design parameters and make intelligent recommendations for a cooler and lower carbon city. We work carefully on integration with existing user workflows and with client systems to make our state-of-the-art tools user-friendly. We are expanding our work to include fast, accurate assessments for net zero energy, adaptive reuse, and low embodied carbon developments for the SUTD Sustainability Center.
I wanted to share with you that these are the so-called the initial kind of projects that my professors are doing. Already these projects are being applied by the Urban Redevelopment Agency in Singapore. But I wanted to share this project simply. Climate change problem cannot be handled as a component. It's basically a system. It's the entire estate. That's number one. Number two, if you are looking at future problems, not just in terms of climate change, you look at resilience engineering. They are all system-wide problems. Now, to do what you're doing without using AI, basically what you saw, the evaluation of tens of thousands of designs, this will take you maybe 10 years if you do it manually. 10 years. And what this software could do is that it could evaluate all possible combination of building layout. All this can be done within maybe an hour. And you end up with the optimal building layout, so that the temperature, because temperature is a huge problem, since Singapore is located at the equator, you can actually end up with the most optimal layout based on the wind direction, based on the sun direction, and based on all other climatic conditions. Now, this is something that's impossible even if you use a software. We are doing quite a bit of that now. This is just an exhibition of what the professors are doing. Maybe I skip this. Another big issue in Singapore is actually manpower because of the aging society, and therefore facilities management becomes very important because who is going to keep your facilities clean? So one example is one of my professors. He's actually one of the most successful, an example of the kind of people that we hire. So we hire very special professors. He actually runs a robotics company for cleaning robots. I think he's like the number 3 in the world. Actually, I do not know how these professors work because they are full-time professors. They are teaching. They are publishing papers. They are also CEOs of companies. Actually, he doesn't need my salary. I think you all know that. Because he's running like 3 companies and his revenue is of the order of millions. I think maybe tens of millions. And yet he's my employee. I'm not sure why he wanted to work in the university, but he says he finds a lot of joy in working with students, young students. So these are examples of what SUTD wants to achieve. Another one of my professors, and this is a company set up by his student, not by him. Yeah, he's using drones to water trees. You all may know that we have a very beautiful garden in Singapore called Gardens by the Bay. These are the super trees. They look very beautiful when you light them up at night. And if you do come to Singapore, do visit this garden by the bay. But the only problem is that it looks very nice for the tourists, but who's going to water the plant? And therefore, these are all solved using drones at this point in time. And we have the only drones research platform in the whole of Singapore, simply because in Singapore you cannot fly drones. How do you do drone research? So what I did creatively during COVID, I changed one of my interior of my building into like a golf course, you know, the golf course netting. I netted up the whole place, and that becomes a huge enclosure where my professors and students could do drone research. And their research is producing, as I've said, companies, and they're being used to basically deal with facilities management. I think I'll stop here because I ran out of time, but I thought today I want to share with you that we are a very unusual university because you notice that all the problems we are solving are future-facing. Secondly, you notice that I mentioned that unfortunately, future-facing problems are occurring now. We are running out of time. In fact, that's why I'm running out of sleep. I'm trying to outrace the rate of technological development. It's a very, very hard job for me. I do not know about you guys. Very hard. That's why I escaped to Bogota this week to get a rest. At the same time, I'm also telling you that if we do work together, and I hope to come here and talk to Sylvia and the rest of you, I think we can actually solve all these problems together if we work together and not in our individual institution. So with that, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.